Love those.
Oh, thanks.
I came straight from holiday gift packing.
Oh, wow.
No, I've had these for years. They're some of my favorites.
Okay, and we are live. We are
We are
also
blurry.
very blurry. Let me see if I can't adjust that.
Krista, you're very sharp though. We see you really well.
Yeah.
It's not good
Is this
light.
the
You
camera?
got good light there.
This is how you control it, but let me see if I can't.
Are you seeing us blurry, Krista?
Yeah.
I've never looked so good.
I like
Filter.
that stuff, yeah. The Gwyneth Paltrow.
That's right. Okay, extra.
I don't know if we'll be able to really get that perfect.
What does that do? Reset it?
Will you put your hand on it?
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes it zoom in and out, so it actually like
Refocuses.
refocuses.
Oh, there's a delay too. I mean, I didn't realize that. I was like, huh. So it's a good thing that there's a little bit of a.
Should I shut the door?
Yeah, would you? Yeah, thank you. Well, we're going to go on. So we're a little blurry. Give us that filter effect, but we will go ahead and start the commission meeting. Thank you all for being here. Yes, would you mind?
Sure. Welcome everyone to the final meeting of the Public Art Commission for 2024. And I guess we can go around and introduce ourselves. I'm Susan Apak. I'm the vice chair, soon to be chair. We go around here and then.
Sure.
Yeah.
Brian Hart, commissioner member.
Chris Darcy, Commissioner.
Krista Lauer, Commissioner.
I'm Kathleen Swarm. I'm the staff liaison.
And I'm Jennifer Keller. I'm the Parks and Rec Division Manager.
I was just gonna say, it's Jennifer joining us today. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
So I guess the meeting is officially called to order. I should have done that first. Is there any public comment?
There is not.
Okay. I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda for today and the minutes from last month on the 13th.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Okay. Do we have to take a roll call or just everyone approved? Aye.
Yep, you can say
Okay.
all approved and then all opposed.
Okay, all approved?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Abstentions? So moving on to the first discussion items, the wonderful Scarves for Salem art installation that I wish I would have gone to see in person, but I'm glad that you got those beautiful photos. Yeah.
It was very lovely. I was actually very moved to be there in person. The effect worked very well. And everybody who was moving around the installation was captivated by all of these unique items. I think the fact that they were handmade really drew attention to them because each one of them is unique and there was this sense of warmth to them, like an emotional warmth as well as them being specifically to warm people. It was really beautifully done and I was really proud to be part of that and I'm so glad that it worked out and they were great to work with. The students and it had a bunch of wins from my point of view, both being someone who works in Parks and Recreation and who gets to be the staff liaison for the Public Art Commission. The wins were that it was an easy install for the group. That had very little impact to the park. And it created a really positive space around it. So it would be something that I think this type of installation we could do again. And I would hope to see this sort of partnership with other groups who are wanting to do temporary installs.
Was there any documentation of anyone from the community interacting with these garments?
Just photos that I took when I was there and photos that I think both of our local news outlet, the Statesman and the Reporter were out there and took photos as well.
I didn't see any with any people. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I have a couple with people, but those aren't the ones I share because I figured.
Travis, yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have
But
to
it was-
kinda do it for that.
It was really lovely to see how they did
Yeah.
interact with them and how they would look at each garment and every one, they typically would see it, love the colors, love the textures, and be drawn to look at it, and then be interested in what it was for, and they would go back and they would read, and then they would like it even more. They loved, and everybody heard who saw the installation just thought it was such a wonderful idea and really enjoyed the concept behind it. So that was fun to see all the positive support of this installation.
I hope they plan to do it again next year, but with a lot more notice.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think a lot of people would have liked to participate and the publicity was not publicity about it, and it was only I understand it being a 1-day thing, but how long did they actually leave up?
They left it up, I believe they put it up on a Wednesday and took it down on a Friday, something like that. It was right over Thanksgiving, which also added to it, that there was,
People out in the community.
people out in the
Yeah.
community and
Looked like good weather.
it was
Yeah.
beautiful weather when I went there, that really.
I love the colors with the earth, it's the location, the site is perfect. Just the colors with the globe and the whole feeling of the concept of the globe with unity and
Yes, yeah,
community. It was a beautiful concept and.
yeah, it was a win on so many levels.
Taken, like,
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I think most of them were taken. I just reached out to the professor to ask if he had a final count on items and tell us a little bit about the removal and an account on how many were taken, how many were left, but from what I know, I think most of them were taken.
that's great.
Were there the students out there that day too, the people who created the scarves? They were
Yes.
there too?
I saw one group shot with the
Yes.
students and the
Mhm.
professor.
It's gotta be such a cool moment.
Yeah. It just so happened to be that the parents of a student who was in the class was down at the park like, our son is in that class and he's always talking about knitting and he was mentioning some project and they're like, we had no idea this is what it was.
Oh, wow, that's funny.
That's so cool.
They just happened to be in the park and got to see kind of the fruition of their
It's so-
of their son's work.
Yeah, what do you do?
Exactly.
That's great.
Knitting culture and colloquium
Yeah.
class, what is that?
That's great. Yeah, what was the name of the group?
I think it was
I think it is knitting culture
knitting culture and colloquium class.
and colloquium. Yeah.
Yes, something like that.
Knitting culture.
Okay, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was very fun, so I was happy. I
That's
get to
great.
share some of the photos.
Wonderful. Thank you for going down there and
Yeah.
photographing it. And yeah, it's just one of those days it can. Okay, we ready to move on
I
to
believe so.
the library art collection?
Yes,
Is
there is news. I was hoping that today I would get to say it's all completed. It is with the Library Foundation for signature.
Okay.
So it's with them, they're deciding on the on who is actually going to sign, because I think the president, they just got a new president, if that's, I believe something like that. They're in a little bit of a transition, so they're deciding on who's going to sign, but we're very close to being done. Hopefully, next time it's on the agenda, I get to say, it's complete.
And Kathleen, when it is complete, is there any sort of plan to kind of make an announcement through the city and to promote that? Or is that something that we should think about? Do you have kind of any idea about that yet?
I don't know that there's any plans in place. I think it could be a great idea and something we could even maybe add to the social media posts for that week when it happens.
And
Yeah,
so-
definitely. I think if there's not kind of a larger scale public announcement, I can absolutely at least plan to put it on there and get that all ready to go.
Yeah, I'll check in with our communications team, but let's also plan to do it on our end as well.
Sounds great.
I would talk to the Library Foundation about it.
Mhm.
Because, they may not want a lot of attention drawn to this.
Yeah.
I think there is some turf at the library, and the fact that the Library Foundation held on to this body of work and did not give it to the city before now, I think, is a result of some people not wanting the work to become the property of the city. I don't know the inner workings of the Library Foundation.
Mhm.
However, I would just talk to them about whether they want to call attention to this. They did. The full collection of the Library Foundation is not coming to the city.
Yeah.
So some of the work was given to the Oregon Artist Series Foundation. Some of the work was not in good condition. It's not I would just, before a decision is made to promote it,
Yeah.
in a blanket form, I think it'd be good to just have a conversation. I was in touch with the new staff person for the Library Foundation, who I think does not live in Salem and was hired because he works with a firm that has a lot of government affairs experience. And there is conversation within the library community about whether a library district might be looked at for Salem, and you know, how is the library going to be sustained in the future given some of the city's financial shortfalls. And I forget why I know, because they gave recently 4 works of art to the Oregon Artist Series Foundation. I'm on that board. I sent him an acknowledgement letter, say thank you very much.
Mhm.
And then I said, you know, welcome to your new job, love to meet you, and I didn't get any answer. So, yeah, that was it.
Okay.
But the works that are up on the walls in the library, is that the complete collection that the city will now own once it's final?
I believe so.
So it's the
Yeah.
44 works I
Yeah.
think it was that are being absorbed.
When I looked through the inventory, it was most of the works that we'd be familiar with. I had seen them when I was in the library, so that it's most of the works that are on the wall there.
Yeah. Right.
Anything else about that?
Not for me.
Utility wraps, man,
This
I
was-
saw the guys up there putting it up, there were like 3 of them, and they were like, it was cold, and they were like getting them up there, they've really been running full steam, and they look great.
How
They
big
look great. I turned the corner yesterday, and the one on the bottom left, Eileen Cotter Howell, I literally turned the corner and I went, whoa, look at
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
So can you scroll back up just slightly?
Mhm.
Okay, where is the one with the fence posts on the left? Oh, by the Ross.
Right.
Yeah.
And then where's the Nancy Lindbergh?
we do have that document.
Yeah, I do have it. I have it right here. Let's
Yeah,
see if
where's-
it,
We
let's
asked
see
for
if
a
we
document
can't.
of where they're all gonna be, and they're doing it in stages also,
Yeah,
so this is like phase 2, I think.
and earlier this afternoon, I happened to be texting with Carly Wright, the publisher of Press
Very
Play,
high.
Press Play Salem. And I said, well, are you tracking these wraps that are going up? And
Yeah.
she said, yes, I am. And then she said that if she knew when the crew was out doing the wrapping,
Oh,
she
fun.
would love to get some photos. And she'd like to do a longer story for Press by Salem.
Oh,
That would be
fun.
great.
So,
I almost stopped when I saw them and to take a photo and I was going somewhere and I didn't.
the one with the fence, I was driving
Yeah.
and I thought, and there were two guys were there, but I was in the wrong lane, I couldn't pull over. But the one that's by Wild Pear looked really good. I got some good photos yesterday. And then I love the John Colburn, the one
Yeah.
with the pink.
You did a great job in choosing which works and then.
Mhm.
And who chose the
Whoever's-
works?
Yeah, so I recently, the reason I included this was it was a fun surprise to get a reach out from a staff person in urban development who had just taken on this project from their predecessor. I'm unsure who their predecessor was, but they now have the reins, and so they just wanted to check in and let us know that it would be moving forward. And as part of this, there's actually a couple components that you guys will be kind of interested and excited to hear about with this. Is what he needed help with is some of the works of art that they're going to be using for these wraps. The photos that we had that we talk about in our database just weren't up to snuff. What they would hope to for the quality to use for a wrap. So he was interested in if he would be allowed to have one of our city graphic designers, who's also a photographer, take photos of these works of art to get improved quality to use for the wraps. And I was like, absolutely, we would like that as
That's
well.
great.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so glad that this is starting because it's a pathway that we can use as well. So not only are some of the works getting the pictures taken and those updated pictures can go in our database, but it also, they're kind of setting a pathway for us to do the same for more works of art. So that's one component and then the other component that I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about with this is one of the pieces of artwork that they're hoping to use. It's actually listed here. It is. It's this one, it's Face the Public,
Yeah,
but, and they asked, is this one in the public art collection?
no, it's not.
Okay, and so,
Someone at the convention center?
It's in the hallway by the elevator in the convention center. It's in the stairwell.
and it's not actually within our collection.
Correct. It's actually not. It is a copy of an existing work of art that was
Yes.
done by a series of artists. So it's not an original piece.
It's not an original piece, okay, that makes sense. And so when I was going through this and I found it on kind of our database spreadsheet here, and then I saw that it wasn't actually, it was blank, whether it was in our collection or not. And what this made me think, and we'll talk about this a little bit when we go into like our project tracking spreadsheet, is like you guys have said, and we've talked about multiple times, this database probably needs a little bit of attention. And we need to fill out, is it really in the public art collection for works of art that it doesn't say whether it is or not? You guys probably would know much more than I would if some of these maybe are in the collection, if they're not, or if we need to start doing some major homework to decide, to figure out if they are. And that's just one of the many pieces of data, if you will, on each of these pieces of artwork that we need to go through, update.
What are some of the other fields that are over to the right?
We have
Oh, location.
discipline, collection, location. We've noticed that some of these locations are incorrect as well. They're not necessarily all up to date. So this needs to be a project. The depth of the project that we decide to take on in 2025, I think that's what we can prioritize. But if we go back to if we go back and we look at the very basics of our city code and what the Public Art Commission, what we're really charged to do, one of them is really to maintain the collection. So we need to take a look at this, and then we can also work with our, like Kenneth in GIS, who I was like, this spreadsheet, this isn't the database, right? This spreadsheet that we're all using, this is not the database, correct? And it's like, no, this is, they pulled a report from the database to create this. So there is an actual database that's safe, that we couldn't accidentally, change. And that this spreadsheet that we're all very used to seeing, it's actually just a copy of that we have access to. So moving forward in 2025, when we think about the projects that we want to get underway, we'll want to think about an approach for the database, for the public art collection, and how that wants to be approached. If it should be a subcommittee, or if it has just a person dedicated to it, and how we can go through systematically and kind of get that updated.
I haven't been part of many earlier conversations, but there has been the suggestion made that this collection would benefit from being part of a real art acquisition database. So I don't know what the capacity of the existing database is, but let's just say a magazine article has come out about an artist who has work in the public art collection. Ideally, that type of documentation of the artist or the work would be attached to the record for the particular work of art. And I would think that, especially as things like the utility wraps come up, or work is being loaned from, a work from the library is being loaned for like a major exhibition, that you would want to keep track of this stuff.
Yes.
And also the artists passing on, or like Nancy Lindbergh, she's a prominent artist, long time, she's 90 now. Some of these art, like she just had a show at St. Paul's Church. It was small, a lot of people didn't know about it. We did some social media posting about it. But some of this stuff would be great to just connect to this database about this collection.
And also descriptions of the piece, the wall labels and all that. I don't know what the database, what form that database that they were talking about has. Maybe it's capable
I don't know.
of doing that.
I should look at it.
There are, I think Zach was a great resource we hadn't really discussed in detail that for art specific databases. But that also would require expenditure of providers funding to do. I think it's, especially a robust one that would do all that. So we could research that, but it seems the first thing is almost something that an intern, I don't know, they could go through and just say, okay, there's a photo of this one. It's not very good. We know it's in the collection. We know where it is. Okay, this one, there's no photo. We don't know where, just to kind of go through all of the pieces that are there one by one and just document what it is that's there. So, and especially now that we have some really good photographs, like I started to go through and photo edit some of the really horrible ones, just so that we had decent, but now that they're taking the photos, I would need to do that with a lot of them. Or maybe we could have, I think his name was David. maybe somehow he could go in and photograph
Some of the pieces.
more of them, I don't know how we would work that out, he works for the city.
Mhm.
You know, maybe he could somehow photograph all the works for us, but I think first of all, we need to know which ones to tell them.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
also some of them are in the story map,
Mhm.
and those are really good photos too.
Yeah,
So we have, and I don't know if those are connected to the database that we
they
have.
are.
They
Okay.
are. Okay,
Yes,
that's
so
good.
from what I understand is that that MAPS program that is available, that is linked to this database, the same one that this spreadsheet is pulled from. It's an underlying database that then creates what the public is able to see or what the maps are able to see. It's all pulling from the same place.
Okay,
Well, I think, you know, I mean, it would take hours of
Hours,
whose ever time,
Yes.
and I don't know if any of us would wanna spend that much time. to
It would be
go
a very extensive project. I mean, it's needed, but yes.
yeah,
But it's not that difficult, it would just be recording, you
Yeah.
know, what's there, what's not there.
and it would probably be pretty easy, because most of the work is in the library. So, you know, somebody could go in with a tripod and a camera. The lighting in the library is pretty good. You know, and just shoot the stuff. I mean, it's not this is not the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Yes, yeah.
So it's not like it's an insurmountable thing. And I remember when Kathleen, when you sent me the picture of the John Colburn painting,
Mhm.
like the top of it was cut off.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, some of it, it's a pretty easy fix.
The photography, it sounds like could be taken care of if we can work that
Yeah,
out
I
with the
will-
city
right.
with this time. It's the going through the database
Mm.
and seeing which ones have been photographed, which ones haven't, which ones like are unknown, whether they're in the collection or not in the
Mhm.
collection, just kind of going line by line. And what is it, 160 works in there,
Yes,
something like that? I mean, it really isn't that, you know, it would just take time for somebody to just sit there and go through it.
Well, I could probably eyeball the list. And then, you know, the group that worked on the labels for the library.
Mhm.
So it was a team of people from SPAC and people from the library
Right.
advisory board or the foundation or combo. Though they're very familiar with things.
Right.
But I don't think it would be hard to figure out like where the huge gaps are.
Is there a way to, I was trying to print out some things or get, you know, there was, when I was going through it one by one, I got it into alphabetical order, but it was by first names.
Mm.
I mean, it was just really hard to navigate for me, maybe I just didn't understand it. But if there's a way to kind of, and because I was those long, you know, things are really hard to, when you're trying to go through it, is there a way to make it easier for somebody, like, I don't know, print it out or maybe put it in a different format or something where you can just go
You
one
can
by.
choose which column you want to sort it by.
Right, you could sort by,
Right, I
last name.
sorted it by, I couldn't get it to by last name, but that's, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just they have it all combined.
And
oh, I see, so it's first and last, that's probably, yeah,
It's by first, here it is in alphabetical order, but it's by first name.
got it.
one thing that there is a live version that we all have access to, but there's a good chance that most of us have saved a copy to our computer as well. For the live version, what I can do is I can separate first and last names very easily. I can just type that into
That'd be a
Excel.
great first step.
Yeah, Excel will definitely do that. So I can do that. I can separate first and last name, and then you can organize however you like. And so we don't need to necessarily tackle this project today, but let's keep it in mind for 2025. And something just comes to my mind that might be a suggestion is maybe we do two aspects of this, or just parts of this that we try to do in the next year. So maybe those are, our goal is to get updated photographs of all the works that we possibly can and identify and confirm whether it's in the collection or not. Something like that, put some parameters on it, so we're making progress, but it's not an overwhelming amount.
At this point, though, do we even know which ones to ask David to photograph?
I do not believe so, so that
So
would
that
be
would be
step
the
one,
first step.
identify which ones need to
Right.
be taken photographs.
Well, the ones that I went through and I sent to you,
Mm,
I think there were only a couple from, I think it was a dozen that I did that
Mhm.
were okay, that I skipped over. And all the other ones were not okay, and I straightened them out and I did some retouching
Yeah.
on the color, they're not great. But, so I have that list, you have those.
Yeah.
I could try to go through a dozen at a time when I have some time.
okay,
But at least we have that started.
yes, yeah, definitely.
So I could try to do that at least just for the photography part of it.
Okay, yeah,
So I will do that.
Before we leave just the wrap
yes.
thing, is there a way that the artists whose works of art are on the utility boxes can get a heads up that it's happening?
Yeah, I think that would be
You know, just
definitely
like,
reasonable.
just want you to know that
Yeah,
the city's moving ahead with this project, a lot of would you say that it's 25%?
Yeah,
Completed?
I would say about that, yeah, I think they're. And I'm not quite sure what the bounds are, I have the one list, that list, let's.
Oh, the list, can you share that with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I just think this is a really good news story.
Yeah, it's so fun.
There's no downside. This is the perfect time, as people come to see the lights at Riverfront Park, go shopping, go to the Elsinore, see the downtown lights. It's just I know yesterday when I turned the corner and I saw it, it was like, whoa, this is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say maybe it's about a third of the way done, it looks like there's 21 that listed. I don't know if that's the complete list, but 21, and I would say we're probably about at 7 right now.
Yeah, it kind of fulfills everything that we've been wanting to do with
Yeah.
outreach and awareness. I mean, not everything, but awareness that there is a public art collection and that it's worthy of attention and also brightening the downtown
And these
I would-
artists are part of our community,
yeah,
Mhm.
for the most part.
some of them, yeah.
I mean, some are probably
Yeah.
deceased, but
And I'd love to see encouragement to the neighborhoods to do their own with local artists.
can we talk about that for just a minute? So I was coming north on Liberty, stopped at the lighted mission. It's on the corner of a historic district, but there is there's a box for the traffic signals. And I thought, wow, okay, like this would be a great location for these wraps because there is some historic work in the collection. Some of these artists lived in different parts of the city, et cetera. And it made me think, well, we should, once the first batch is done, then how can this get out? So obviously there's a cost. But is there a barrier to kind of creating a next chapter for this that would get stuff out across the city?
What's interesting is that when I was just looking around in some of the SPAC files, I found a draft of a utility art wrap program. And I'm not sure where that's at. I don't know if the program exists now and we can use that outline, or if it's still, I think this draft was created in 2016.
I think it was when Courtney Knox Bush was the staff liaison, when this SPAC was
Mhm.
kind of went to the city manager's office. I think it's the city of Boise that might have a large program of
Similar.
utility wraps. Eugene has one.
Twelton has a lot of them too.
Yeah, I
noticed.
think
There are
Boise
a lot
may have one that reaches out into neighborhoods.
Mhm.
So that'd be something to look at.
Yeah,
But
It
it,
is allowed, I mean, I know it's allowed, I think it's even on the, I don't know if it's on the website or not. But it's something that is okay for them to do, it just hasn't been put out there.
yeah, so then would a neighborhood association have to come up with the money?
Yeah, I think if we take a look at
Mhm.
that and then also find out from urban development how much it costs, who does it, what's entailed, what kind of artwork they need, kind of just get that information, and when we go out to the neighborhood associations, we can talk to them about that too.
I think it would be super popular
Yeah,
Yeah, Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
again, there's no downside.
Yeah.
It's fun, they're lively,
yeah,
they're an attention getter in a good way.
Mhm.
It's good community.
and there are
building.
artists,
Yeah.
artists in all
Across
over
the city.
all over
Yeah,
Salem that
very
you could,
diverse.
they could be in
neighborhoods,
their own
different artists.
neighborhood, it's, yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah, if
And-
you could find
Yeah,
out
I'm
more
going to
about that.
research the program, see
Okay.
where it stands, what, the parameters are for it. And then if something just exists and all that we need to do is promote and share it and let people
Get more
know.
information about the
Then-
cost and
Yeah,
how to do it, and, yeah,
it could be, it probably is also cheaper and simpler than a street mural.
mhm,
And until we can get kind of the,
Kind of longer lasting. too.
exactly, until we can get the paint primer thing
Yeah.
for the street murals
yeah.
figured out, this just seems like, by
Yeah.
a school, by a community center,
Yeah.
by a,
And I know that like our neighborhood association, since it's started to become the first year, they're looking to like, hey, let's look at projects for the
Mhm.
next year, it's a really good time.
Mhm.
Because they're kind of planning ahead too, to figure out what they want to do for the year.
Yes.
The last couple emails.
Yeah. I just think that, a developer might take it on,
Mhm.
who's doing an affordable housing project, or, like a capital, you think about some of the businesses that are community minded, like a Capital Auto Group, or
Yeah,
a Dick Withnell type of
Right.
group,
They
or,
might
the
find
airport.
finance it, yeah.
Yeah.
To support it. There are, the historical, from the Historical
Yeah,
Society,
mhm.
they're all, I think we have one in Grant Neighborhood too. But they're not as eye-catching.
mhm,
I
No, they're
almost
not.
kind of
Yeah.
missed them, that it looked like
Mhm.
somebody had just kind of placed things on
Mhm.
there, so these really, I think, just kind of work so well with the structure. They've just done an excellent job, and the graphic designer, whoever came up with the fonts and the way of putting the name of the artist, as a graphic designer who's extremely overcritical, I was really, really pleased, so whoever it is, just, please pass on kudos. Is
I
it
will.
David who is also the graphic designer?
No, I'm not sure who I will definitely
Yeah.
find out. They did, I agree, did a great job with
Really
that.
sensitive to the work,
Mhm,
just, all of the typography is integrated into the imagery. Really nice job.
yeah, I agree. And Jennifer, I see your hands up.
So I was just gonna say another opportunity, I'm not sure if you want to put them, I know that right now you're talking about utility boxes, but it may be another opportunity for kind of art in the parks is we've been looking at wraps for a couple of our park locations. I know on the surface, it may not seem like maybe the greatest location, but we have a couple of restrooms, hard restrooms, one in Bush Park, and one up at the top of the Derby track, and then also Marion Square Park that continually get vandalized. And we found when we put kind of some art in locations that has so far diminished some of the vandalism that's occurring. So we have been talking for the last few months internally at Parks about potentially wrapping those restrooms on the outside. So Bush is obviously a historic park. And I think, Chris, you were just saying some of the artists are kind of historic pieces. So I don't know if there's an opportunity or interest, but if you wanted to deviate from utility, but it may be a situation that it could actually be on some of the hard surfaces, specifically in a couple of park locations, and it kind of ticks a couple of boxes. One, to kind of help with the graffiti vandalism issue on the outside. It helps kind of beautify the park, and it also gets kind of the temporary art in parks component. So I just wanted to throw that out, and if there was any interest in that, or as a different opportunity.
Yeah,
I think that sounds great.
Yeah, I think like maybe my first commission meeting, I specifically the Bush Park one, I was like,
Yeah.
what can we do about this? And
Yeah,
how can I help? It's in my neighborhood association as well, and I'm on the board for that, plus, and it kept happening, and we kept talking about it every month. And then, yeah, so I would be I know that there's also some strong feelings because it's Bush Park and it's historic and.
Yeah, well, but I also think that,
Something can,
I think that this could be the solution
yeah,
to create something that isn't gonna be constantly attacked.
mhm,
And I guess my question is the surface of these wraps kind of anti-graffiti? So is this surface because it's smooth? I don't know how thick it is.
easier to like scrub on.
Exactly, right, easier to keep clean.
Good, good point, good to know.
But I think,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So you can put we put anti-graffiti on a lot of different surfaces. So you can put, if it doesn't come when they make the wrap with anti-graffiti, you can put that on afterwards to kind of help with that issue. So we have a lot of surfaces that were constructed before anti-graffiti stuff even kind of came into play. So you can do it on brick, you can do it on wood, you can do it on a variety of different surfaces. So that certainly is a possibility, whether originally they come with that or not.
Jennifer, the way that they do these wraps with the vinyl, would they adhere to, are those bathrooms like cinder block, or they wood, or what material are they built out of?
So most of the two specifically are cinder block kind of cement. So we would have to have that conversation to make sure that it is material that would adhere to that, or how we make sure that it can stay affixed to it. So that would be part of the conversation. So depending on the restroom, there's different, we have some that are brick, some that are cement, depends on kind of when they were constructed, on the material that was used. But I mean, it just, like I said, might just be a unique opportunity and even though Bush Park is a historic park, there's a process, obviously, when we do stuff in Bush for historic review, but that's not an uncommon practice that we utilize. So there's a means to do that. It just may be when we're looking at the particular wrap or the art design that would be in Bush Park, it just may need to be a little different, to meet that historic component in that particular park. But it's certainly, we've done things in there, but we just have to go through the historic review process. But it's not that big of a deal, to be honest.
I was just wondering whether the painting would be preferable to, the vinyl on there, because it might be more permanent, like to do some kind of a mural. When there was, I think there was some, in the bond, maybe it was, that some monies were, or infrastructure for restoring or doing something in the bathrooms in some of the parks. And my immediate thought was, and there was some money, about 0.5% that would go toward that particular project. And rather than taking that money and lumping it into something else to do larger, to give that to the community and say, do a mural or something on the bathrooms.
So the bond money isn't specific for rehabbing restrooms. It's for specific restrooms identified. So in some cases, it's to remove restrooms, like for example, at Cascade, it's to take that hard restroom down and then reconstruct a new one. And some it's to establish a new restroom. So it's not really identified to be rehabbing per se restrooms, but there's very specific restrooms that are identified in the bond. So we can't just, we would have to go within that list because that's what was approved through the bond. So, yeah.
So for the new restrooms, that is a possibility.
Potentially, we did talk about doing painting and so forth, but it just depends on the location and the painting, and I don't know what's more cost effective, to be honest, and then what would hold up better. So depending on the use and so forth, sometimes the painting doesn't last as long, but we have thought about that it's obviously a much more extensive project when you have somebody painting all around the restroom, as opposed to developing the vinyl and then just adhering the vinyl. So, because that could take a while to paint the whole restroom, the exterior of it. But anyway, we have considered that as well.
Okay.
I think for today, I like the idea a lot.
Mhm.
I think that I'm just thinking in particular, the Bush Park situation. Got a lot of neighbors nearby, they've got a big stake in the park, a lot of opinions. But I think about the Carl Hall landscape painting that's in the mayor's office or the city manager's suite. There are some historical paintings that would add, I think, to the park experience. And if this can be a deterrent to the negative behavior that we've seen over the past year, I'm all for figuring out, okay, what are the surfaces like? What's the cost? Yeah, I think, I'm glad you brought it up, Jennifer.
Yeah, or having a local artist,
Yeah.
whose work might be appropriate too, that lives right in the neighborhood.
Well, then that's another, is this a commission?
Right.
Is this like a 4 times the cost rather than using an
Right.
image
Yeah, I
that we
guess
already own?
all those angles would have to be
Yeah.
looked at.
Definitely worth taking a look at though, Jennifer. I think
Yeah.
sounds like everybody would be very
Yeah.
supportive of that. So yeah, thanks for letting us in.
And then also the takeaway is how can this move out into the neighborhoods so that the utility boxes that the city already has in place across the city can be part of the
Yeah.
program?
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
I'll definitely look into the program and get back to everyone with where we're at with it and how we can share it with our
Right.
community.
Okay, anything else on this?
I think that's
All
it.
right, we can move to subcommittee reports, art pedestal acquisition. Chris, do you wanna start off with that?
Yeah, and I walked out of my house without my piece that I had updated. Susan and I did a site visit to West Salem on a cold day. And it's from the material that has come to us in terms of kind of the goals of the project. It seems like the West Salem people were more articulate than downtown in terms of what they are looking for. As we stood at the corner of Second and Patterson, that area is definitely a work in progress in terms of the redevelopment. A couple of the questions that we had were, okay, what is really the vision there? Because if you, Second goes north-south. On the western side, there seems like there has been some newer construction, some mixed use. On the uphill side, moving into West Salem, it seems like the existing industrial buildings are still there and some could be slated for demolition. I know the block I parked on, it looked like it would be likely that stuff would come down rather than get improved. So I guess moving to downtown, we went another day, it was pouring rain, and looked at the 2 sites. The site by the tire store seems a lot more constrained than West Salem. The good thing about another positive about West Salem is that it looks like that is a designated bikeway. So the piece would be not only seen by people in cars, the sidewalks are quite ample and wide. And one guy was
Brand
walking,
new.
and brand new, one guy was walking down the street, but the fact that there'll be more bicycle traffic, to me is, that's a plus for the site.
It's pretty isolated though, I mean, it's
Mhm.
not,
Right-
there's
right
not a
now.
lot of traffic, you know.
Right, so that's the
Yeah.
big question, you know, what
What's the vision? Yeah.
what is this, are we looking 5 years out for some new development to happen or longer? Downtown, I believe the two sites are within the historic district. Cause when I looked at the description of the boundary and then where these corners are, that was my assumption that they're within that. So, you know, there is an opportunity for someone to look at that history, what happened, who was here, who were the original inhabitants of this part of Oregon, et cetera. The tire store site is very, very tight. You know, there is street parking that will literally noses up right to the edge of that art well. There's a little bit more room on the Olivia's Corner site, but that is still there's not a lot of breathing room for these sculptures in those two art wells, and that for me is an issue. What else? Susan had some comments about the color of the sidewalk grid, the grill work that is set into the sidewalk.
Well, the design itself, I don't know, I mean, if I were, I'm approaching this, if I were an
Yeah.
artist who was creating a piece, it's a very specific pattern in the grill work, and it's metal and it's rusted. So it's kind of a bright orange, rusty color. And that's something, I was just thinking, what is it that artists would need to know? Because when we looked at the cube, which is falling over, I just thought that cube should not be on a rust color, you know, symmetrical, circular pattern thing. I don't think the artist would really be too happy if they knew it was even on there. At least I wouldn't if I were the artist. But that's sort of beside the point, I think, in terms of what we need to do next. Yeah, or it's not beside the point, but it is part of the point, is we need to let artists know
Yeah.
exactly what the site is like, the parameters of it, like as you were saying, it's very tight on that one corner. The other one is more of a bump out.
Yeah.
And also what the traffic is like I think the one at the automotive site, you know, it's on commercial, so it's gonna be seen, you know, and people go fast, you know, speed fast, but there's not a lot of foot traffic right on that corner, but you can see it from the art department, you can see it from various angles. So we did take some photos of all of the sites. And also we started a list, I've just been kind of doing a little research about artists in the area.
Oh, great.
And started sort of a I don't even, wouldn't even call it a database. So I've shared that with Krista and Chris, and we're gonna add to that list. Also just kind of I put down sort of a list of the criteria that I would wanna know as an artist.
Great.
And then also there are sites, specific sites for artists who do public art.
For posting
For posting.
opportunities. Yeah.
So we could help with that, and I guess we also need to know from Jennifer, just, you know, what is it specifically that you're gonna need from us to help you with the RFQ? And also the deadline too, we do need to
Yeah,
know
and
that for
I
sure.
can speak to a little bit about what we're going to need, and what we need is to know what is important to include. For instance, do we want to specifically call out that we want these pieces to have a historical or cultural component to them? Like, we need it to make sense within the context of Salem, we need that. Or can it just be an art piece that doesn't have that doesn't relate to any sort of cultural narrative that we have as a city? Is a cultural narrative important? And we need that to be included by the artists, and we want them to make that direct connection for us. Things like that. Do we want, let's say you wanted specifically, we want local artists. We want it to be somebody who resides within the Pacific Northwest or something like that.
Right.
So anything that you guys specifically want to be included in the request for proposal, we want to know those parameters so we can get it in there.
I think that's very doable. One question, I also think we should just put on the table that the budget for these works of art
Mhm.
is not, these are low budgets.
Mhm.
So acquiring something that is going to be, let's just say, up to 8 feet tall
Mhm. Mhm.
may be pushing it.
Yeah.
And you never know. Most artists do not make work on spec.
Mhm.
So it's not like an artist would have a body of work in his or her studio
Yeah.
that would be ready to move to a site. That's not to say it can't happen, but then let's go back to your other point about whether the piece should be a narrative piece. So let's just say that I'm trying to think of let's just say there was someone in Salem in its early days as a
Yeah.
white settlement who
Mhm.
might have been a business leader,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
man or woman. You know, this budget is not enough to have a
Full sculpture of them.
yeah, that's the reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I guess a question that I would have is, there are galleries in Oregon
Yeah.
who represent artists who may be recently deceased,
Mhm.
like Lee Kelly, who was probably one of Oregon's most prominent sculptors. There is work by Lee Kelly that may be available
Mhm.
in the size range that we're interested in and within our budget.
Mhm.
And that would be a coup if Salem could actually acquire a piece by somebody like Lee Kelly.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there may be people who would propose to create something new specific for these sites.
Yeah.
But we can certainly come up with, like, I found it interesting as I was thinking through this stuff, that these sites are within the historic district.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, within that historic district, something like 75% of the buildings are historic.
Mhm.
Like, I found that, okay, cool, what does that mean for
Mhm.
this? I also think that the material that we got both from the downtown folks and from West Salem talked about the city's requirements for durability.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's an issue for me because downtown, people come through it, they are on
Yeah.
bicycles on the sidewalk, they're skateboarding, they're on foot, we just need to make sure that as we're reviewing what might come in, it rains. We've got an echo earth globe that, seemed like a great idea, but mosaic doesn't really work in this climate. You probably don't want to go in that direction again. Just to be practical and smart. I mean,
Also,
you guys
people are gonna be
touching.
interacting with it around it, it's downtown, so that definitely would be taken into consideration. But I would also kind of defer somewhat to the artists.
Mhm.
Because the artists that I know that do site specific, if it's site specific, public art, whatever, take into account the site, the history of the site, the sight lines, how it's gonna be seen, where, the artist that I would, you know, hopefully high quality artists would take all that into consideration, and I would give them, allow them to have the freedom to say, oh, you know what, I found that on this site, such and such happened in the 1800s, whatever, I'm gonna build on something
Yeah.
that might reflect that.
Yeah.
Or I see that this is, you know, you come right off the bridge and this is the first thing you see.
Mhm.
You want it to be exuberant, you want it, you know, to reflect what Salem is about. You may want it to, you know, have the experience of coming up the bridge, you know, so I wouldn't want to put too many restrictions on the content of the work.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go. I think
I agree.
in general, we want to, I would suggest that we reduce barriers so we can get as many opportunities and options as possible when we're looking at this. So I will wait for any of those. We absolutely want to include this, make sure this is included in the RFP. If you guys could send me what you have, and then what I'll do is I can meet separately with this subcommittee and we can actually go through what I have for the RFP now. Some of it, I used different ones that the city has used before and kind of put it all together into one. And we can look at how it's been done before, and some of it you might really like and we might want to keep, and some of it we can get rid of and we can incorporate some of these other ideas. So I would suggest that as our next step.
That sounds great. So let me ask a question. So let's say that before our next meeting in January, we have that meeting with you and things are gelling. Then how much time will you need, like a few weeks to get that finalized? And then I'm thinking maybe this would be open for a month, like a 30-day period, or so that people could respond, see it, think.
Yes, yeah.
And then, so let's say we get with you before our next meeting in January. By mid-February, maybe the RFP goes live. Then we get to mid-March for submissions due. Then maybe by April, we're
Reviewing submissions.
reviewing. And then maybe by May 1, we have a decision. So that artist, if it's new work, then that person has the you know, let's say that person has a notice to proceed in June. You know, just.
Yeah.
And then they have a certain period of time to, thankfully, the June 30th, 2025 urgent deadline is not real. So then we would have something happen maybe in the fall. I mean,
That seems like a
kind of a
reasonable
path.
timeline, Jennifer. Does that timeline seem pretty reasonable to you?
Yeah, just a couple of points. So when Chris is mentioning the RFP for at least 30 days, it has to be 30 days. So it's a minimum 30 days for when they post for that. So you can do it longer than that, but minimum it would need to be 30 days. So just for your point of information. The other thing I think you're going to want to, because it will tie, so towards the last quarter, so about in end of April, May, we have to determine what we need to reappropriate or need to rebudget with regard to funding that we want to carry over into the next budget cycle. So what ties with that is in your RFP is the timeline for deliverables that you want for these art projects. So you're going to need to reference that in the RFP. So what's the expectation? So not just when the RFP is done, but if they're creating art, what's the timeline associated when they have to submit those designs, right? Or if the design is that they're submitting it with then the with the RFP itself. I mean, I'm not sure how you're doing that, but if the design, they don't have to submit it, something like, hey, this is what they talk about the design, but they haven't actually kind of created it yet. What's the timeline that they would have to provide that? And then what's the timeline for deliverable for install? Because depending on when that is, if it's moving into next fiscal year, whether we've cut the purchase order or not to them, that'll determine whether we need to reappropriate or rebudget the money. And so we'll need to provide that information to UD because the money is actually in their budget. So we need to be able to provide that information to them. So when they're submitting their budgets, the sooner we can provide that definitive dollar amount that needs to happen, then the better, so it can get captured in their 24-25 budget.
Great, that's very good information to have. I get it.
Has that money already been transferred over? Or wasn't it from?
I don't know.
It's not, for my understanding with UD is the money is not transferred to SPAC per se. It's held in their budget. It's in their budget. So when the payment is made, it's made through UD. So they would process the invoice or the payments or whatever. The money is standing in their accounts, not in your SPAC budget.
So that's
my understanding.
So
That's
that's
why-
what needs to be, by the end of April, that needs to be confirmed within urban development's budget.
Yes.
Yeah, so when something's well, if it's rebudgeted, that means there's an existing PO that's out there and the money's not going to be spent. It's reappropriated if a PO hasn't been cut, but the project is looking at happening at a later time in the following fiscal year. So when you reappropriate something, you're really looking at budget authority. So if we can reappropriate the full $50,000, right? If we need to, 45, that's fine. It's because it's really giving you budget authority in the upcoming year to spend, because you have to have budget authority to spend money. So that's really the purpose of the reappropriation. And then the rebudgeting, if the purchase order is already cut, we already know what that amount is, right? Based on what the amount of the purchase order is. So to whatever the artist is. So, that's kind of at the latest. So I think early on when you do your RFP and you're going out there, I think you can look at your timeline and see realistically if you're going kind of backdating when you're anticipating this RFP to be posted through Orpin, and then you're receiving their proposals, and then you're reviewing them and then awarding and stuff. Yeah, and if you're looking at not installing to potentially fall, it's not going to happen this fiscal year. So I think it should be relatively easy. Most likely, you're just going to be most likely just reappropriating the money, not even rebudgeting, because you probably won't even have a purchase order by then.
Yeah.
Is there any danger of losing any of that funding?
No,
Well,
it doesn't have to be spent by June 30th of 2025. So it can be reappropriated, but that's why I think you need to establish a timeline, because it really should get spent in 25, 26. They're not going to want to carry it over for several years. So it's one thing carrying it to the next year. So I think establishing a timeline, especially for installation, the expectation, the artists know, hey, it needs to be installed no later than kind of thing.
Great.
Yes,
That makes
absolutely.
makes good sense.
Okay.
I have another question. I don't know if anybody here knows the answer to this. So the Block 50 redevelopment, which is across the street from the tire store site, what's the general timeline? Is a master developer being selected for that development? Do you know the answer to that, Jennifer? I'm just wondering, if that's gonna be a big thing when it happens, and hopefully, I'm hearing very ambitious and great goals. Like it's gonna be mixed use, it's gonna be a lively part of downtown. I'm just curious about.
And it's right there, right?
Yeah.
Across from where the sculpture's gonna be.
I know that a lot of work has been done,
Yeah.
in a lot of discussions have been had, so just like I'll reach out to urban development to find out what the vision of Second is in West Salem.
Okay,
I
great,
can see if they have a vision yet for Block 50,
okay,
that would wanna be considered.
okay, great.
Just one thing about the West Salem site, as of now, it's very industrial. I mean, it's
Mhm.
almost like, I think some artists would love it because it's almost like having a blank canvas behind where the sculpture would be. It's very industrial looking and very geometric and but that could change. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So that would be great to know what the plans are.
Yeah, I'll reach out.
Okay. Anything more about art pedestals? Social media. Krista.
Yeah, so we got another one out today, although I do have to reach back out to them. It went up on Facebook, but the Instagram one doesn't seem to have gone up. At least it hadn't at the start of the meeting. So I'll check in with that. But yes, back on that. So hopefully after all my travels and family things, back to that and being a little bit more proactive. So yes, the goal will be to kind of resume those on a weekly basis. So that is also why this project of figuring out what photos we need and everything like that will be very useful. Because at this point I've started to go through a good amount of the ones that we have that are already in good quality. So that would be theoretically a project on the horizon that would help out with finding some options for here. But I also do, I mean, I really like the idea too of if there are any local happenings that are, you know, that we're involved with that we would potentially use. I was out of town for the what we just did with the knitting. But I think, you know, anything like that where we have an opportunity to post something and also kind of promote the community collaboration. And again, I know that was also like we weren't necessarily the people organizing that, but I don't know if the school did anything with that, but I think those are definitely opportunities that we could be a little bit more aware of and proactive moving forward. So it's definitely something to keep in mind.
Leva did, I think they did a post yesterday or the day before.
Okay, maybe I should.
And it seemed like there was a lot of attention to that. You know, it might be interesting to look at the pieces that you've already written about and then look at what's kind of coming up for the utility wraps and see if
Yeah,
I'll call out
absolutely.
some
And about half of the ones that are in the boxes I've already written about. That being said, I think when they do come up, it would still be really lovely to do a feature on it. And I think, you know, instead of using the high quality photo, we use the wrap, and then the second photo is about the painting. So they really kind of see that juxtaposition as well. So yeah, absolutely. I think Kathleen, if you could also share that timeline with me of when they think that those will be going up, I can kind of plan accordingly. I also, if they do have the updated photography, I know about they have taken new photos of some of those that I don't have yet. If you could share that info with me, I would love to start promoting those more because yeah, like Susan and Chris, you both mentioned too, I recently saw them just driving down and didn't really know that they were going up, and you know, they're beautiful and they really are creating some nice color downtown, but also awareness to the collection. So yeah, I think anytime we have new ones going up, I'd love to do a feature on them. I think that right there is great content. So yeah, would definitely love to utilize those.
Awesome. I can I'll definitely send you that and Susan's been copied on a lot of the Derek from Urban Development, who is now taking on this project. He's been so great. He'll send me photos of everyone that gets done.
Oh.
And so I can include you as well, so we can get those photos to you and create some social media content.
Yeah, and I'd love in the new year too, once we kind of get everything established and Susan and Chris, you're officially in the new roles, I'd still love to do a meets back as well at some point of, you know, every week and just introducing one of us, and one of us can maybe choose one of the artworks from the collection that we really enjoy. That way, again, just kind of getting people more aware of what we all are doing, but also kind of putting that personal touch on it as well.
Has the city been posting all of your submissions?
So Yeah, I went because you also mentioned you were having trouble. I went back to look on Facebook too today, and like the keywords I usually use weren't, not all of them were showing up. So I'm gonna do some digging just to see the best way to find all of those for you, Susan. But yeah, even today, like the Instagram, Facebook one, not the other. I will double check with them just to make sure that those are all getting posted
Go
everywhere.
to the search of photo, you know, I went to the city of Salem and then I just looked through the photos because I didn't want to go, you know. And I basically only found some months had two of them, some months had one. I didn't, and you know, I went through kind of quickly and just through the photos, so I might
Yeah.
have missed some, but you'll see in the presentation that we're gonna give to council, I wanted to kind of show a grouping of how many we've done, and I didn't, you know, I didn't find weekly. I didn't
Yeah,
find.
I'll send you the final numbers. Some months were very consistent weekly. A couple of them were not. Just because like we had the database was down in September. So
Right, but they've been posting them off as far
yeah, as far as I know, but I will go back and just kind of do a little audit for the last year just to see how many. And yeah, I can give you that data.
Yeah, because I don't know, I know we continually bring up, you know, the idea that we would love to have our own commission, you know, postings, so that it doesn't have to go through the city site, but it sounds like that's not something that's possible.
It's not something I was able to get done.
I mean, I asked about that really early on, and they were kind of like, we want everything to go through the same channel, which I understand, but
I just thought I would bring it up.
Out of all of them.
no, of course, it's always worth an ask.
Ways. I definitely appreciate the city's position that they want the city to be
Yeah.
about everybody and all of the issues.
Yeah.
If
One
we
thing I
could
can
just,
ask, one thing I can ask them though is, you know, historically we've done them on Wednesday afternoons. And I know, you know, there are a lot of times where they will post something immediately just because of it, if it's weather related or emergency related or something like that. And I have noticed that on some of the days, you know, there are 4 other posts, so it does get lost. And I can see if perhaps, you know, if there's one day where they don't really usually have anything planned, or if it looks like there are going to be a lot of things planned on one day, to maybe push it to a day where it could be featured a little bit more prominently. So I can ask Trevor and Kathy about that just in terms of scheduling, because that is one thing I've noticed. I go on it right before our meetings and there are already 2 other posts on there and I'm like, where is it already? I'm already scrolling.
Well, and Facebook will bury it on purpose. If it's a business page that posts 4 times in one day.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, they're spamming, we're gonna make it invisible for most people. Like, there's things that social media specifically does. You know, so we're not doing ourselves any favor by, you know, posting 4 and then nothing for 5 days.
It's a
Actually,
great
we're-
question to ask though, Krista. It's a good
Yeah, I
question.
can ask, 'cause, yeah, we kind of thought it was just easier to just have at the same time every week, but that is one thing just after it being, you know, having this up for a while, is sometimes it does just, I think, get lost in the amount of content that's out there. So yeah, let me ask Trevor and Kathy and just see what kind of the possibilities are on there, because yeah, you know, when it's on there, we do want it to get some nice attention. And you know, I don't know if they could also look at just historically, if one's on there with multiple days, how, you know, what the engagement is versus if it's kind of by itself one afternoon, that could be something to look at as well. So yeah, let me inquire about that, because yeah, you know, these don't take 5 minutes. So I do, you know, I do want them to kind of get the visibility that we want and the interaction. So
Great, thank you.
Anything else about social media?
thank you for doing it.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Yeah.
and sorry it fell off for a little bit, but I'll be back on it.
Yeah. Sorry you had to go through that with your family, our condolences.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Art collection maintenance, black discs.
I only left this on here because we sped through it last time, and there's nothing to say other than another hurrah that it is getting completed, that
All right.
the maintenance is getting completed. Lee expects to have it back in place by the end of January, I believe is the expected date. So
Great.
hopefully very soon we'll see it all fresh and new.
Did he actually remove it and bring it to his studio?
I don't know that the removal has happened yet, but that is what his
Ah.
plan is, yes, to remove it.
Kathleen, is it possible we could get pictures of that happening?
Yes, I think he's
Yeah.
working with our parks crew to make sure that there's parks people on site when that happens. So I'm sure I'll be somewhat aware of it and I'll try and get pictures or have some staff take pictures for us.
That'd be
That'd
great.
be great. And if we could get some when it's reinstalled too, just as like a, hey, you ask us what we do. One of them is serving these works and you know what that means. So I think that would be a great kind of call out as well.
Great.
Like this. New business, back project tracking spreadsheet.
So
Yeah.
I did a little draft of a project tracking spreadsheet for us. And it can look a lot of different ways. It can function a lot of different ways. But I actually worked with my colleague who is the liaison for the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and they have a work plan and schedule that is somewhat similar. So I know it was a desire to have something that is easy visually to look at and to know what our projects are and to keep track of them. So I did a quick little draft. I'll share, and I'm sharing it with you now. Can you see it, Krista?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Enlarge that a little.
I can go full screen. I'll zoom in here. For us, I don't know that I'm going to be able to get rid of the bars, but I can zoom in. But I wanted to show I'll show a general layout first and then we can dive in. And then what I will need with this is I can do some management of it. But it's also really important that I have some key players managing this as well. And really it needs to function best for you guys. So you're going to have some ideas on what you'd like to see on a project tracking spreadsheet, somewhat like this, and what the functionality will be. So here's a calendar, January through December, and the easy visual way is to put a little check mark next to the thing on what months we want to be working on the specific things. I have different what's a good word for it? Topics, there we go, different topics here. So and these can be arranged again. And so but the basic idea is that the topic is commission development. We need to, every year, there's going to be certain things that we have to do, nominate and elect officials, committee assignments. This is actually one that SPRAB had on theirs. We don't necessarily do that at the beginning of the year. Say these are our committees, we know we have to have them manually and assigned, but I left it on there as an example. Create meeting schedule, develop, adopt work plan. And this would be, we could call this our work plan or our schedule. Ethics training, city council liaison update.
Will we be having a city council liaison?
I
I just voted on that. I read something about that.
Yeah, I heard something about that too. I think potentially we will. I haven't had it confirmed, Jennifer. I'm not sure if do you know if SPAC's going to have a council liaison?
I don't know. I know Counselor Nishioka is very involved, so whether she would be the person or not, but I think they're trying to kind of increase that
Set that up.
engagement between the commissions and council. So similar to like, SPRAB's had that for probably a year or so. So I think they're trying to do that as well for like SPAC as well.
That would be good.
Yes.
And again, I just have some X's in here as example,
Mhm.
nothing set in stone. But I have this section just called projects, and I would say, we have projects that we wanna do, but we wanna keep very focused. I would say that I have 4 in here. I would say 4 is actually quite a lot of projects for an entire year. Projects like the sculpture acquisition, these sort of projects are percent for art projects that will come up. They have to be in here, so we wanna leave some capacity for that. I, again, just put a couple examples in here of, I know we want to update our mural program and application. And we wanna work on the strategic vision and work plan. But of course, there's a lot more projects we could put on here. There's a lot more ideas. Another section I have is community engagement. I know we wanna engage with the neighborhood associations. Repair and restoration, I added that on here as a section. Because throughout the year, we will have different art projects that will become a focus that need repair and restoration. So there's a section for that. Ongoing programs and reports. This, again, like this back annual report, we could actually put that up here, right, with commission development, make it easy on everything we know we have to do in a year, we can combine the two. But I broke it up just for an example. Annual report to city council, and then programs and reports. We have our social media. Really, what this more is we could actually change this section to down here. You will see our committee assignments. So perhaps what this would be better as is like a subcommittee.
Or
something
social
like
media
that.
could go, didn't have an outreach.
Yeah, exactly.
That
So it
could
could go
be
under
another,
community
yeah.
engagement. So there's obviously some work that can be done on this, but I just wanted to provide an example of a tool.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I had in mind, something simple that we could just have simple goals, simple things, know what it is that we're doing in a very straightforward way. So I like it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think it's a good start. What I'd like to do is to take that work plan that Zach and previous members put together, look at what is important. I mean, for example, there was different members of the commission were assigned to be tracking the other public art in Salem, like with the state, with the capital, with Willamette or whoever. It's like, is some of that stuff gonna just go by the wayside, or is it gonna be put in here? You know, like I heard that the budget for the state capital seismic upgrade is up to $600 million. Okay, that is gonna generate a boatload of money for public art, blocks from our downtown. What, does that mean anything for us? You know, does that long-term, does that mean we're gonna have an expanded walking tour or a cycling tour that will loop through downtown, we'll go through Willamette, go up to Capitol Mall, whatever, you know, but where do some of these things that were on that list, do they make it onto this or not? Anyway, I just would wanna take a look at that.
Maybe there could be long-term section. 'Cause
Yeah,
I like this
absolutely.
because it's achievable goals for us within the next, short amount of time that we have as commissioners. And then maybe long-term goals, once those things are accomplished. But I think to keep in sight, just, maybe those four things, or if we decide those are the things that we want, but just goals that are achievable and quantifiable and that we know that we have accomplished. I think that's a wonderful idea, but I don't see, it's a long-term thing, and it could be on there.
And this body adopted that.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is there were a million things on that work plan. What is just
The
there
priorities.
for good?
Right.
Cause it seemed like good idea, and what's the reality?
Yep.
Prioritize.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that could actually go back to committee assignments. That potentially looking at this, let's say, for example, we know that for now and moving forward, we want to have a subcommittee of outreach to the various, and that's something that's important. And we know we need that committee to exist. We know we actually probably should have a subcommittee dedicated to repair and restoration. Like that, there's a subcommittee and that's their sole focus. We know we need a subcommittee who's dedicated to the database. And it could be something that we look at that every January, we know those subcommittees should exist and assignments get made to them. Something of that nature. What I'm saying really is that once we have a spreadsheet, we have an opportunity to really look at, again, what are our priorities? How do we want to get them done? And how do we want to assign the projects to everyone here? So hopefully this is a really good first step. I have Chris and Susan who are going to be our chair and vice chair here just in January. So my suggestion will be that in January, I'm going to work with the chair and the vice chair to take a look at this, and we can work to update this, get it to a point where we want to bring it back to the larger committee commission and say, hey, this is what we're looking at for a work plan. And then we can decide on our processes. What does it look like? Is it going to be, how do we decide what are those projects that we actually want to commit to for the upcoming year? But it's a step in the right direction, and
Definitely.
I'll work with the two of
Definitely.
you guys to kind of take it from here.
Yeah, speaking of the larger commission.
Mhm.
It's a very small commission right now.
It is a small commission right now.
I did see that the council appointed commissioners to other commissions last night or Monday night, whenever that was. What's going on with getting us some more commissioners?
You know, I checked in with the city manager's office. I would expect that we're going to have new commissioners assigned very soon. I didn't get an exact date, but it was, I think, even last week or the week before that I was talking with them and they were working on getting us new commissioners. I'm hoping it will be very soon. I don't have a date for that, however.
But are they already picked out? I think we talked about this last month.
You said
We
there were
don't need to
7
start-
candidates or something?
Yeah, and I think we even got a couple more once I checked back in. We had, I think, maybe 2 more apply. And so I believe it's the mayor actually goes through
I think there's a committee,
a committee, yeah,
the
that.
mayor's on it.
Mhm.
I think the committee recommends and then the
Mayor
mayor
makes
makes
the
the
choice.
final decision.
They have to be approved by council,
Yeah, and then the council.
which is what they're a slate of people for
Right.
downtown
Mhm.
development, parks, I think, or library. And then something, a traffic control type of thing. Yeah, there's a committee, I'm sure the mayor
Mhm,
can
mhm.
lead, and then it goes to the council, full council.
So
So
maybe they're waiting for the turnover of the new council and the new mayor, which happens.
I don't know, it is a bit
Imminently.
mysterious to me.
Yeah.
But if there is something that we should do, I think we should constantly be recommending that people submit
Yeah,
interest.
because they keep the applications for a while,
Right.
right? Which is probably what they did for these
Mhm.
other people.
Right,
Also, can we be involved in any, if we know who the applicants are?
The commissioners don't get to be involved with the process of appointing to the commission.
Not even feedback, right?
No, the only feedback, I, as the staff liaison, I look over the applications and I basically say whether they qualify or not. And we have certain qualifications about, the experience level, and
Sure.
And that's basically what I do, is say this person qualifies in this category and this person doesn't qualify in X, Y, Z.
I also think, just as kind of a rule of thumb, is that we should actively invite people to attend our meetings, either by Zoom or in person. Cause I remember just in years past, different groups have come in, like a group of poets came in one month and said, you know, we'd like to be involved with something. And it was like, okay, great, let's stay in conversation, or like you came.
They used to come all the time, yeah.
Right, Carly would come, and it's just, you know, we're a public art commission, so any public engagement is good. So I think we should, you know, we should all just be mindful
Right.
that this is a nice, very nice meeting room in a lovely new building, great public art, so why not show up?
That's right.
There was also talk of expanding, you know, more members to the commission. I don't know if they're still talking about that, but if we
Let's
are
try to
gonna
get
have.
to 7.
Yeah.
That's true.
But if they, you know, if we are gonna have subcommittees and committees,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
it'd
it would
good
be
to have
helpful, wouldn't it?
Sure.
Anyway, anything more about that, the spreadsheet?
So that spreadsheet though, we can't look, you're gonna kind of work it and then you'll
Yeah,
let
and
us
then
see
I can
it.
share, I mean, I could share the version I have now with everyone, and I'm happy to do that. So I'll just plan on sending it out to the commission as is now,
Okay.
so that way
Yeah,
you
that'd be
can
cool.
give
We can
me
make
any sort of
recommendations.
feedback or recommendations that you have, take a
I would
look.
just like to look at them. Oh, these are the subcommittees I might wanna be. I'm kind of really quickly looking at a list
Yeah.
of like, oh, these are the things that really spark my soul to do
Yeah,
things, you know,
yeah.
so. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
The database,
Yeah?
yeah, okay.
No, wait, That's not the one that, I wish it would, but it's not that's not my passion, but it's gotta be somebody. It's too much like math,
Yeah.
numbers and
And
charts.
speaking Just one other thing that I noticed under the ethics training, did we all do it?
No, I wasn't available that day.
Yeah, I wasn't on.
Oh, 'cause
So
I
we need
did
to do
it. It's,
right?
So,
You can sort of, if you have two screen, I shouldn't say this, but you can, I had it on another screen and I could still pay attention, but I could still. do
oh, so you
I-
didn't have to go to Kaiser and take it?
No, it says it was on Zoom.
There was
There
one
was
in
a-
person,
Is
but
there another
there's,
in-person coming or not?
Which was
They'll just
totally
switch.
on Zoom, and
Then
then
I-
you did have to answer questions every once in a while. They had you fill out a little thing to see if you were paying attention.
Right, I'm sure, yeah.
And it was fine, I did, oh, it's easy.
I get
So-
like testing.
They don't
So if
even, it's anonymous too, so they don't say, hey, you were.
Oh,
got
yeah.
that
If
wrong.
I go to the Oregon Ethics Commission, will I be able to see when they're
Yes.
available?
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Mhm, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's on my list.
Okay.
Yeah, it was relatively
We have
painless,
to
but
do
it is,
once per term.
was like almost
Yeah.
3 hours.
It is,
It's
yeah.
a
Yeah, that was the
time
thing. I was like,
commitment,
that's,
yeah.
it's more. to
But
public.
again, if you do it
I'll do
on
it.
Zoom, and you have to.
And it has to be while like the Zoom, it was like, this is when we're doing it.
Yes,
Yeah, so
Yes.
it was,
so
it was
so
live
it's during
on
the
there, it was
weekday.
live, well,
And
the whole thing was live.
Well,
Yeah.
the whole point,
Okay.
from their perspective is they want the training to sink in. It's like you're not supposed to do it on autopilot.
Right?
No, I just wish
Yeah.
I could do it on a
Yeah.
weekend, so I don't have to, I'm running out of vacation days.
It wouldn't surprise me that they would offer a weekend every once in a while.
Yeah,
Someone else.
I don't know.
Cause there are a lot of boards and commissions,
Yeah,
of statewide, you know,
yeah, I think council people have to do it and everything.
of local government.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody, there are all sorts of people.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, annual report.
The annual report, so I have on here, the word adoption for the annual report, but that's actually probably a little too formal. What I'm looking for is actually just approval from the commission. But we will need a motion to approve it. I'm hoping, I noticed today when I was getting ready for the meeting, that the second page was not attached to the original packet that I sent out. So I sent you all an updated packet and updated the packet on the website as well to include this second page. of the annual report. And hopefully you all got a chance to take a look at that. This year with the annual report, we wanted to make it very digestible and inviting, so that we are really hoping that council will actually look at the information. They have a lot of information to look over, and we were hoping that they could really get the key takeaways about what SPAC does, and more importantly, what we did in 2024. So we condensed the report. Are any of you very familiar with what the report looked like last year?
I don't
Yeah.
remember what.
I'm familiar with,
Is it pretty, we've historically had a very long report. I think it's been beautiful every year. And very, very well done. But I condensed it a little to make it 2 pages.
I thought it looked good. I found one typo, but
Ooh, yes.
I can get to that later. I think I think having a digestible amount of printed report is good. And then delivering the report should not be read, you are giving top level good news about
Mhm.
why this is important work for the city. And the city council in my history with it has been very positive about this.
Mhm.
Folks will raise, I remember someone on the council a while back said, I helped raise the original money for the Echo Earth Globe. Like, I hope you are hearing me that this needs to be repaired. It's like, okay, I hear, great,
Mhm.
priority. Stuff like that, but I guess my question is, it seems like there is just some older work that doesn't necessarily relate to Oregon pictured, like this Roman thing. Just, those are some questions that I had about the visuals that were selected. But other than that, the content I think is solid.
And I thought that might come up as well. And I think there is an opportunity to potentially trade out some of these works of art. These works of art will be our ones that were new photographs were taken of, I believe, by David, who helped me put this together.
Okay.
And they will be featured on wraps. So there are potentially works of art that are better suited, but I think from his point of view, he just knew that these ones you could get high quality images of.
Okay. Like, I don't even know where Lorenzo Cabanes is from. Ditto with Andrew McDuffie, but I think focusing on live artists would just be a good strategy. Jack McClarty's dead. Elizabeth Britton now lives in Seattle. So,
In the presentation, we have a lot of different artists and we have like 2 Bonnie Halls and,
okay,
we have some, so in the visual presentation, which they're not gonna take away with them, this is, I don't know if they would want, and those weren't great photos, but they were good enough for me to use, on a slide.
okay, then I don't need to, I'm just raising it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think they're gonna pay much attention to that.
You know what? I wouldn't assume anything.
They're probably gonna go,
It's-
oh, it's art, it's colorful, it's art. I don't know, who knows, maybe they're more.
You know what? You only get one opportunity a year in
Yeah.
front of this group, and all I'm saying is I always took it as a positive experience.
Yeah.
And people, I never had anybody say anything negative.
Yeah, I was there last year when Zach did it. It was it was the current mayor who was very, he was very supportive and appreciative. The other councilors didn't say much.
Oh.
It was well received.
Yeah.
There was no negative.
The This happens during a council meeting or separate?
It's gonna be in the well, that, we'll show you the presentation will be during, on January 13th.
January 13th, council meeting.
Please come.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We'll have a cheering section.
Go
There
out for a drink after.
you go.
That's like the council.
Yeah.
And Grace, do you mind, do you remember where that typo was?
Yeah. Hold on. Yes, it's very minor. Hold on just a second. Page 2. Like that. And right column, third bullet from the bottom, repair of Echo Earth Globe. So it's Salem Parks, there's no apostrophe in parks.
Mm,
And then it's the Cultural Advocacy Coalition of Oregon, not Oregon. And then I would just put $150,000 via the state's Cultural Resource Economic Fund. Or State of Oregon Cultural Resource Economic Fund. Yeah, nice job on this.
you. Had some great help from Susan.
Yeah, no, I'm a big believer in keep track of stuff, you know, like, let's list, you know, take stock of everything that we did.
Because people ask that.
And also sometimes people forget and then you can't remember and then there's, you don't have anything to go back to.
It's true.
Yeah, 13th, I'll try
I'll
to,
be there. I think it's, I was free, so I'll be there.
I'll be in Mexico, but I'll be there in spirit.
what?
It's a good excuse.
I'll be in
Okay, we need
Mexico in spirit.
We need to get
Yeah,
our
right.
travel dates, Krista, we can get our subcommittee meeting with Kathleen scheduled.
I
and-
will send you those. I'm only gone for a few days. It's one of my best friend's weddings. So I'm not gone too long.
Well, that's a good excuse.
Yeah.
I just came back from a wedding in a foreign country, so.
Yeah, I'm excited. She's my oldest friend. We met the first day of kindergarten. So
Oh,
That's
yeah.
cool.
But I'm excited to see some great art. It's in Mexico City. So
well, bad.
That's gonna be amazing.
yeah.
So what I would ask is
Emotion.
a motion to be made to approve this to move forward for council as our annual report. And of course, when somebody makes this motion, they can of course say with the typo errors.
No, I'll make a motion
Okay.
to adopt, I'll use your word, adopt
All right.
the annual report with the one typo correction.
Second.
You want to do the all in favor?
Oh, yeah, right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
All right,
Motion passes.
great.
Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah. And then before we go, we can just quickly go through, this is going to be the PowerPoint presentation, if you will, that Susan uses to back up this annual report and what the council actually will be seeing as slides.
So we put the the actual language of the code down at the bottom that the council
Recognize
the
it.
visual arts. There we go. Just to remind them why we exist. And then I felt strongly that we should just have an overall kind of broad saying public art, especially in light of the budget. Public art pays for itself. I took a quote from Americans for the Arts about cultural tourism. And then Americans for the Arts had that great graphic, so I just kind of emphasized that
And there is data for Salem.
there is data for Salem and
You decided not to use that.
didn't see data for Salem about public art.
Oh,
It was more about community organizations, art organizations, I thought.
well, the report came out last year. And actually, there's new data about arts participation in Oregon that came out like a week ago.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I've seen
you know
that,
what? This
but
is done. Don't,
Yeah, I mean, we could, I just thought, I wanted it to kind of focus on the public art part.
okay.
And then the temporary art motion, I thought was important to say that, you know, we're working on that and then just what that motion was. And then the statement about how important art is. So sort of getting these overall.
And this
thoughts.
this was actually included in the motion, which I
Yeah.
thought is just such a
Yeah.
great quote, if you will,
Mhm.
about how it's a
Yeah.
powerful social and cultural and economic tool.
Yeah, and I thought it was important though to have, to remind them, this was the motion that you voted on,
Mhm.
you know, and that we have those instructions from you. We're working on that.
Was there a timeline attached to that motion?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
Just curious.
Not that I know of, but been reading them.
And so this correlates with the annual report of the accomplishments that we would like to highlight. Social
And this
media,
is
look
where
at
I
that,
just kinda,
Krista.
yeah, I wanted to show that the abundance, you know, it's a lot there. And
Good.
we see, you know, the details other than some of the art, but I just wanted to, I wanted to animate it and have them like pop out. No, that'll just.
That's a great slide though. That's
Isn't it
a
great?
great image.
That looks really great, Susan, yeah. That looks really great.
Um,
And then the library acquisition.
Amanda Wojcik.
You know, I
Such a
was
good one.
wondering whether I should have the artist names.
Um,
They'd probably be too small though, maybe for them to read. Do you think it's important to credit?
Actually, I feel pretty strongly that they should be credited,
Should
but
be.
even if they're small, you should at least have them handy in case someone says, now what about that work?
I can add credits to it. I don't know if I know all the credits, but.
Really?
Is that your favorite?
Yeah.
I love that. Look how.
Oh, look,
colorful
I've
that
never
is.
seen the mural.
Isn't it beautiful? Yes.
I need to get over there. Jeez, look at that.
It's big.
Okay. 1380.
And we're trying to get, we were, you know, Eddie kind of moved away and has his own things going on in his life, so he hasn't really gotten back to us about the particulars of the artists. But I did find out from, there's another artist, Eric, who knows a lot of the artists involved, so we might be able to, at some point, if we wanted to get a list of the artists, we might be able to get it from him.
Does that have to be accessioned into the city's collection?
The mural,
The mural, yeah.
let me verify what the process is, but I believe the application process
Takes care of it.
takes care of it, but I'll double check that.
I'm glad that image is there. I still have not.
We have some other images that Eddie finally sent.
Oh, that's, I'd love to, I can put them on that public art Facebook feed.
Okay.
This looks really good. Looks very nice.
It's fun, it's bright, it's inviting.
Very, very nicely done.
And this correlates to our looking ahead section. This is great.
Wait, who did that? Oh, Bonnie Hall.
That's Bonnie's, yeah.
Yeah, it looks really good.
So that will
Nice
be
job.
what goes in the background. This one, we don't need to approve the actual presentation. We just needed to actually get the approval of the report, but we thought you guys would enjoy seeing it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It looks really You know,
Gets me excited.
nice work,
Good,
nice work.
good.
It's,
Together
It's,
on
you know, it's really great to have people on SPAC who could actually like help
Yes. Oh,
drive
yes.
things forward in a really professional, competent and attractive way.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, definitely. I definitely
Made my
appreciate. Good,
that.
I'm
It was
so
fun to
glad.
work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come up with the right images and you know, just kind of to hone in on very specific details that we wanted to.
Plus, it's
project.
just very visually attractive. And even
Yes,
if you're,
Fighting.
you know, thinking about something else, it's like, whoa, look at that.
Yeah.
You know,
Very artful, very artful as well. It definitely showcases the art. So thank you so much, Susan, for helping, and thank you everyone for just helping in general get me up to speed. And as I start to take some of this stuff on, I appreciate all of your skill and support. I've really enjoyed that you guys are all so up for it and ready to support with getting a lot of this stuff done. So thank you guys.
Great, any other comments, commissioner comments?
just, I mean, if we are just wrapping up,
Mm-hmm.
I did hear that, you know, the Bush House Museum has commissioned the artist Jeremy Okai Davis in Portland to paint portraits of, historic, Black, Oregonians.
Oh,
So he-
incredible.
So, several of the paintings have already been finished there at the Bush House. He apparently is delivering the final pieces in that commission to the Bush House, and there will be an event, I heard, on January 10th to kind of unveil them.
Yep.
Because I was up at his gallery in Portland last week, and they told me that. I just raise it as a, you know, watch for an invitation, and it would be a fun thing to and be part of.
Yeah, definitely.
So I just throw that out as it sounds like it's the Friday before the January 13th.
It is, yeah, it's their first opening,
wow.
art association of the year, and they're presenting the final works. So yeah, it should be really lovely.
Yeah.
The paintings are beautiful.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I just throw that out as coming up. It's a pretty big deal for him, for Salem Art, for the Bush House. Yeah.
They've really made a kind of a pivot to understand the history of, you know,
Yeah.
Bush.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I think they've done it really sensitively as well.
I agree. That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
great. If there's nothing else, I think we adjourn. Oh my God, it's exactly.
Exactly 5:30.
Right. We are good, man. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Okay,
Yeah,
see you in
thank you.
2025,
Hi, everyone.
If not sooner.
if not sooner.
Yeah, I'll look. Yeah, Susan and Chris and Kathy, just let me know if you want to meet.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna do that.
Okay, when do you think you're gonna be back?
I'm gonna be back on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.